Imagine, for a second, soaring over the westernmost edge of the Old World. You're looking down at where the golden, sun-baked sands of the Sahara finally give way to the deep, endless blue of the Atlantic Ocean. Welcome to our latest explainer. Today we're immersing ourselves in a nation defined by striking contrasts, incredibly deep historical roots, and an undeniable heartbeat. This is Senegal.
Okay, let's dive right into this, because the story of this nation actually begins with its very name. According to a really popular theory proposed by a 19th century author, Senegal comes from the Wolof phrase sunu gaal, and that translates, quite beautifully, to our canoe. As you'll see, it's pretty much the perfect metaphor for a diverse nation of over 18 million people, all navigating the turbulent waters of history, climate, and modern development together in one boat.
Section 1. The Edge of the World, where the Sahel meets the Atlantic.
To really understand Senegal, you have to picture the geography. Imagine the rolling, arid plains of the Sahel stretching westward until they abruptly collide with the crashing waves of the Atlantic Ocean. If you zoom in on a map of Africa, right at that edge, you'll see the Cap Verde Peninsula jetting out into the water. This is literally the absolute westernmost point of continental Afro-Eurasia, and it's right here that the bustling capital city of Dakar sits. Bordered by Mauritania to the north, Mali to the east, and the Guineas to the south, and famously wrapping almost entirely around the narrow nation of the Gambia, Senegal occupies a uniquely strategic crossroads of the world.
Section 2. Echoes of Empire. From Ancient Kingdoms to Independence. Let's move to the timeline and see how this all builds, because a land this strategic has naturally been shaped by some massive sweeping currents of history. We're talking centuries of empires rising, falling, and colliding. Starting back in the 13th century, we see the rise of the Jolof Empire. What's absolutely fascinating here is that this wasn't an empire built purely on brutal military conquest. It was actually a voluntary confederacy of various states. But then, the tides shift. The 15th century brings European powers, and by 1677, France takes control of Gorée Island, turning it into a dark hub for the horrific transatlantic slave trade. It actually wasn't until the 1850s that the French pushed deep into the mainland, facing fierce local resistance along the way. Finally, after centuries of colonial rule, the modern Republic of Senegal emerged peacefully into independence in 1960.
Section 3. The Anchor of Stability, Democracy, and Devotion. So, how exactly does a nation born from the scars of such intense colonial expansion become the most reliable anchor of stability in an often volatile region? Well, the answer lies in its political culture. As of 2024, Senegal ranks 10th in electoral democracy across the entire African continent. Starting with its very first president, the poet Léopold Sédar Senghor, the country established this remarkable tradition of bloodless transitions of power. Even through recent highly contested elections and protests, that democratic fabric is held together, continually proving its resilience.
Now, what's really interesting about these numbers is how that political stability is beautifully mirrored by deep social harmony. Senegal is overwhelmingly Muslim, 97.2% to be exact. But if you walk the streets of Dakar in late December, you will see the city beautifully decorated with Christmas trees. The Christian minority and the Muslim majority live in a peaceful harmony that is genuinely inspiring to witness.
And even within that Islamic majority, the faith is distinctly Senegalese. Over 90% of Muslims here belong to a Sufi brotherhood or tariqa. The two most prominent are the Tijaniya, which is a broad reach across West Africa, and the Mouridiyya, which is an order deeply rooted within Senegal itself, headquartered in the holy city of Touba. These brotherhoods promote a peaceful syncretism, basically blending traditional African beliefs with Islam, which fosters an incredibly strong sense of community and work ethic.
Section 4. Harvesting Land and Sea, Modern Tensions of Climate and Economic. While the spirit of the nation is strong, the daily realities of survival are increasingly tense. Away from the booming modern banks and shipping hubs of Dakar, you find a rural economy that is literally fighting the environment. To put things into perspective, a massive 75% of the workforce is in agriculture, but they rely almost entirely on rain-fed farming. With the Sahel region experiencing extreme heat and droughts driven by climate change, these farmers are highly vulnerable. And here's the paradox. Despite having so many people farming, Senegal is actually a net food importer, relying heavily on imported rice just to feed its people.
And the struggle isn't just on the dry earth, it's out in the deep blue too. If you look off the coast of Dakar, you'll see these incredibly vibrant, colorful artisanal fishing boats, but they are currently fighting for their very survival. 57%. That is the amount of Senegal's fish stocks that are currently in a state of collapse. Years of overfishing and illegal incursions by massive foreign trawlers have devastated the waters, threatening the livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of Senegalese who rely entirely on the sea.
Section 5. The heartbeat of Teranga: culture, contrast, and the future.
Despite these heavy modern tensions, the pulse of the nation remains incredibly vibrant. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast. The Senegalese people uniquely blend the deep past with a rapid, unstoppable momentum toward the future. On one hand, you have the ancient, dust-kicking action of traditional Senegalese wrestling, a total national obsession, where young men grapple for glory, alongside the timeless voices of the griot storytellers. On the other hand, you have a booming, thoroughly modern IT sector. And in 2026, Dakar is set to host the Summer Youth Olympics, making Senegal the very first African nation to ever host an Olympic event. It's a country soaring into the future, but keeping its feet firmly planted in the sand of its ancestors.
This vast diversity is beautifully woven together by language. While French is the official language of government and schools, it's not the true voice of the streets. Over 30 languages are spoken here. Wolof is the great unifier, spoken by about 80% of the population. It's the energetic, vibrant lingua franca of the bustling markets, the music, and the daily life that connects the Fula, the Serer, the Jola, and the Mandinka into one cohesive society.
So, the crucial point here, the thing that binds all of this together, is one defining word: Teranga. It loosely translates to hospitality, but honestly, it's so much deeper than that. It is the absolute core national value. It represents a profound warmth, respect, and a communal sharing of what little or what much you have. It is the invisible glue that binds this diverse, complex nation together as they row their shared canoe.
So what does this all mean for the days ahead? With rising sea levels, economic hurdles, and political shifts on the horizon, how will the spirit of our canoe navigate the rising tides of tomorrow? Senegal has proven its incredible resilience time and time again. I highly encourage you to keep exploring the history and culture of this remarkable nation. Until next time, keep learning.